We have with us Lake Martin native and world-renowned famous person, Dr. George Hardy. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, wow. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. Every time I spend 5 minutes with you, I find out some other interesting tidbit. Well, let's talk about your dental practice first.
Okay, yep. Well, I've been here since 1991.
Yes.
And I came back to Alexander City. I was in Salt Lake practicing dentistry there. And
Yes.
I think the pine trees were just calling me to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent about 10 years out there in the Wasatch Range skiing and having a lot of fun. But I knew I'd want to hang out my shingle here
Yes.
in Alex City, or in the southeast, I think, or back home, which when I went to Auburn and then went to University of Alabama School of
Yes.
Dentistry. And I wanted to just come back. It was Lake Martin and the like I said, the pine trees were calling me back.
Mhm.
So
I love that. And you kind of introduced a lot of your fellow colleagues
I
to
did.
Lake Martin, haven't
well,
you?
when I was in dental school, yeah. I mean, a lot of at that time that was in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out 35 years now this year, isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my friends now have places on Lake Martin because I introduced them to Lake Martin. We'd come down and ski, and I can think about 10 people now that have places on Lake Martin from my dental class,
Yeah.
or from that area,
Well, thank
era.
you for being such an
Oh
ambassador to
yeah!
our area.
Oh shoot! Yeah. I mean, it's a hidden paradise. We don't want too many people to know about it, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, he has a really good-looking practice. It's so interesting. It's a historic home in downtown Alex City. How did
Yeah.
you find the property?
Well, actually, this is cool. This house that is next to the library here in Alex City on Church Street was built here in '23. But actually, this house and the house next door, it's kind of cool. The history about it is my dad, who's 96, can tell this story. But both the houses where Lake Martin is, just off of Young's Island and Wicker Point,
Yeah.
where right near the river where it was then. Dad even remembers when the river. You should interview my dad, because Dad remembers when the river was filled in.
Okay.
And both the houses were brought up and reassembled here on Church Street. So this house, which is now my dental office, and then the house next door, both were reassembled. Well, after I went to dental school, I did a VA residency in Birmingham, and then I went out to Salt Lake to do some study in pediatrics, and then I ended up, I had some friends that I met, believe it or not, from New Zealand, and they invited me to come down and do a locum tenens position in New Zealand. So I practiced dentistry in New Zealand for a while, which was just over the top, part of my life. I did that when I was about 32 or 3, I think. I went down in New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay, you do this fun thing every year at the infamous Alexander City Christmas Parade.
I do.
What do you
26
do?
year. Oh, I don't know how I got started. I remember Jim and Debbie Bain at the time had asked me to ski behind their boat for Lake Martin Living magazine back in 1990 when we first came back. And they had me skiing, and that was the first year I was a water skier behind their ski nautique. And anyway, from that it led to a different character every year, and I did it on rollerblades.
Yes.
And every year I've been, golly, I can tell you, I can go through the whole thing and tell you how many things I've been. And I've got some good pictures. This last year I was a disco dancer.
Yes.
With live disco music.
Fantastic. It had a huge disco ball blaring 80s music.
Yeah.
Huge afro wig just back
Oh
there.
yeah, we won first place in business. We did this year and last year. Yeah,
It's really cool.
I've got a real creative dental team that works with me, and we throw it together. Paige, it's fun. So.
Yeah. All of this is really interesting, but that's not even the most interesting thing, is it?
Here, even the cameraman kind of freaked out when
Yeah,
he met
Mitchell
me.
just had a complete, total freak out when he realized who George Hardy is. Tell them who you are.
Well, I'm actually the dad from the worst film ever made, probably in the history of all cinema, called Troll 2. And I stumbled across this 26 years ago, or 27, in Salt Lake. I ended up auditioning. When I was living in Salt Lake, and I had a patient that said to me, "Why don't you go up to Park City and audition for this film in Park City?" And I said, "Oh, what the heck, why not?" So I go up, and sure enough, I get the lead role in the film as the lead dad, the hero dad. And now from that, it's become this cult phenomenon. And You know, the film was shown. It was an underground deal. Never went big screen or anything like that. Until fast forward from '89 to 17 years later, in 2006, I get a phone call out of the blue. Now, mind you, my Troll 2 copy, a VHS copy, had fallen behind the big, thick TV that we had, and I can remember my kids watching. And the first 4 or 5 minutes, I just went, "Oh, I can never watch this film." So I never watched Troll 2 ever. I mean, I never even would put it through the VHS copy because it was so bad. The first few scenes, I was just going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening." So the bottom line is, I get a phone call in 2006 from a kid from Furman doing a radio documentary on Troll 2, and I didn't even, you know, I didn't.
Did you think it was a joke?
Yeah, I thought it was a joke. I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, you know, if you go check out MySpace, and this is pre-Facebook and pre, you know, social media, that was a coined term. Nobody even knew what that meant." And it was on MySpace, and he said, "Check out MySpace, and if you don't believe me, go to IMDb." So at that time, I Googled it, and sure enough, Troll 2 was the #1 out of the bottom 100 of all the millions of movies. It was #1. It's the worst film ever made.
That is so
I went,
awesome.
"Oh my God, there is something to this." So I scrolled down. It just happenstance. It was April the 11th, 2006, and I scrolled down to the bottom of the page, and it's one of those things where you just kind of, well, I'll scroll a little bit more, and I'll just keep scrolling until maybe it ends. So I go to the very end, and it says forum at the bottom of it, and so I went into the forum, and it said, believe it or not, this is godsend. It said, first Trolls 2 screening on the big screen ever in the United States, party and screening, all cast members invited, April the 13th, 2006. So that's 2 days from the 11th, of which I scrolled down and found this news. And I said, "I got to do this. I got to go back."
Yes.
So I hopped on a plane the next day. I canceled my Thursday. It was a Thursday night, and I canceled it. And I flew out to Salt Lake. And I get there late, and I go in this dark room, and all these BYU students are in there, and the lights come on, and I get bombarded by all these people wanting my autograph. And I'm just going, what in the world? And then I see a lot of the cast members who I have not seen in 17 years. And the one I really wanted to see was my 10-year-old on-screen son, Michael Stevenson. So sure enough, I ended up catching up with Michael, and Michael says, "George, there's a huge, parties about Troll 2 and all this." So Michael and I decided to with our organically put together a documentary called Best Worst Movie, which was really cool because it was the #1. It was the premiere for movie for Sidewalk Film Festival in 2010, which was really cool because about 2,300 people showed up at the Alabama Theater and watched Best Worst Movie, of which featured
Worst movie.
Yeah, Best Worst Movie, which featured Lake Martin, the Lake Martin area, and had about 25 people from Alex City in the documentary. So it was really meaningful for me to be able to, promote this area through the documentary and all, and then just tell the story. And I was a vehicle to tell the story about what happened to me as a dentist, and then this cult movie star from the film. I wouldn't call it a movie star, but it's really great. But it's led me all over the world. The documentary we made took about 3 years to make it, and it was filmed in 28 cities and 8 countries, which was a great ride. I don't know how in the world I did it now back in 2010. Thank you for interviewing me.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Oh, great.
We'll
Thanks.
see you soon.
Okay.